Hello and welcome to Team Franco Bodybuilding Podcast. Hoping you guys are doing really well out there, getting it done both in and out of the gym. And as we proceed into the contest season, which basically for bodybuilding and especially here for us in the OCB, it's year round, but it's heating up. And when it's heating up, I usually have more to say. So this is near and dear to my heart. Because being a competitor for all these years, a promoter, a coach, a judge, a head judge, everything in between, you see great physiques on stage. But here's the thing. Sometimes the physiques are staying the same. Or they're asking what to do between shows. And to me, that's where the magic happens. Because unfortunately, everyone loves to flip that switch when prep starts. All of a sudden, in their head, it's game time, right? Countdown mode, locked in, zero mistakes. But here's the honest to God truth. If you are relying on the last, say, 12 to 16 weeks to build your physique, unfortunately, you're already behind. And that's what I want to discuss today. How prep doesn't build a physique, it reveals it. So the main point of this is that what I see often is the urgency that people fall into when their prep starts, rather having that urgency year round. Because sometimes first timers or those trying to get back into it or those trying to use a prep to fix something, they think that that time before the contest is going to build their muscle, right? It's going to fix their metabolism, maybe. I don't know. I've heard that one before. Outwork bad habits. Well, no, that's not going to happen because you're giving yourself more restrictions. And somehow they think everything's going to come together. And that's not what prep is for, guys. And this is for those first-timers, those revisiting, or maybe those who've had terrible coaches or learned that, prep is not, that's not what it's about. Prep is where you display the hard work that you already have done. That is what it's all about. And I tend to simplify and dumbify things. That's one of my problems. But I think that's one of the nice philosophies about my coaching. Just try to keep it simple, straightforward, because unfortunately these other coaches out there make it to be like, I don't know, like ta-da! Like, oh my God, we're in prep now. Magic's going to happen. No. The reality is the real work, and that is the months, even years, before you do a contest prep and focus on fat loss. That's where building muscle happens when you're in a surplus of calories, or at least maintenance. You know, you're training with intent, you're focused on strength gains, you're learning your body, increasing your caloric ceiling, which if you don't know, that's a term of mine where you add in calories strategically. So yeah, you're gaining weight, but you just want to keep an eye on it so you don't get too fat. That's something that I do with all my clients, and it turns out to be very productive for those who do want to eventually compete. And you're helping your metabolism stay healthy, especially your hormones. Because if you constantly diet year-round, we talked about before, it's just too tough on the body. Now, the psychological edge of why having a good off-season before you prep has so many benefits, where you're setting yourself up. Basically, you've done all the work already, so therefore your mindset during prep, to me, is totally different. It's more positive. You're not desperate. You're not scrambling. You're not searching. You're locked in. But when you're not prepared, unfortunately, when that prep starts and after a few weeks you're realizing, oh shit, maybe I don't have enough muscle, or I'm not losing body fat the right way. My body is stubborn. That's when people chase those shiny objects. Those new diets, new supplements, extreme cardio, last minute fixes, maybe jumping ship on your last coach and then hopping onto another one because you start questioning yourself. I get it. I've been there myself. I'm self-coached, but, I start like, oh, maybe I should do this. And then I just take a deep breath. And I'm like, well, Joe, let's zoom out and look at the progress over the last month. And I'm like, that's not too bad. And you got to trust it. So to me, you can't be chasing those shiny objects, especially when stress is elevated. And that's why it shows to me that maybe the months going into before you decided your prep, you just weren't prepared, right? And that leads me to my next topic, where when I work with someone year round and they do want to compete with a goal, but it's not immediate, we do prep before the prep. And I think I did a whole podcast on this. And to me, this is where a real advantage is created. This is basically the time that it's your off season, that you do build your muscle. You create that consistency. You already establish, or you're establishing the structure. I learned the body as a coach. So therefore, when you get closer to your show, let's say 3 to 5 months out, you're not guessing anymore. You're just simply switching gears a little bit. And what are those gears? Dropping calories, but not too much. Adding a little bit more activity. For example, if you're not getting many steps in or not doing any cardio during your prep before the prep, that's perfectly fine. And we bump it up, and then we see how your body responds. So it's just a gradual into it, rather than thinking, all right, flip the switch, let's go. I'm gonna get serious now. And anecdotally, it's funny because when I work with people year round and everything's going well, they have a good productive off season, and we're, say, 4 or 5 months out, and I will have them start lowering their calories and things are going well, and then they'll be like, well, Joe, we're about 4 months out. When are we going to start my prep? And I laugh to myself. I said, well, we are. You're in it. We just didn't announce it. We don't have to announce it because we worked up. We learned what your caloric ceiling is. Now I thought time to slowly reduce calories. And the magical thing to me, they don't even notice it. These clients just roll with it because they're so in the zone, right? Only because if I drop their calories, say 150 calories per day, they don't even feel it because they're in such a good mental spot already. They're locked in with their training. They're locked in with their diet. They've had that balance and flexibility. They worked on their mindset. They did all the things that was necessary to build the mental state along with the physical state. So therefore, when you go into the prep state, it's an easy transition. And to me, that carries and goes a long way. Because for example, let's have some fun with this. We have two different type of competitors, right? We have person A. They're prepared, they're built, they got everything consistent, they're confident. Person A. Then you got person B. Rushed, it's under eating, guessing, reactive. Same timeline, completely different outcomes. Where who do you think is going to finish strong? Who do you think is more excited about their prep? Who will do better, right? And it's often that person B who's rushed through prep, who doesn't do things right, who didn't have an off season. When it comes to getting feedback after a show, 99% of the time that feedback was like, well, you needed more time. They're like, what do you mean I need more time? I dieted for 12 weeks. No, you needed more time in the off season to build your body, to put yourself in a responsible spot, to lose the body fat properly instead of just crushing yourself. That's what feedback is usually about. Building the body or getting leaner. And people don't like hearing that, where they're looking for other fancy things, but no. Feedback is simple. Keep on doing what you're doing, and maybe you didn't do it right years before or many months before you decided to prep. So to me, a contest prep is simple. It should feel controlled, strategic, predictable. You should feel in control, but never chaotic. So it's simple, and I think that's one of my faults as a coach. I simplify it, and people get maybe turned off. They're like, well, that's it. If people pick my brain that are interested in coaching, and I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, it's just doing the same thing, but just eating a little bit less and, doing a little bit more activity, where they think, there should be dramatic changes. But usually those dramatic changes lead, or because these people are desperate, or because the coach has no clue. So this all falls back into prep before prep once you have a clue. The ultimate goal is to step on stage and to look your all-time best. That's my goal as a coach. It still comes down to you versus you. It's to the point that you feel like you belong there. That's how you know you did everything right. No matter what the placing, the real goal is, yes, looking your best, looking like you belong, kicking ass on stage. And yes, winning is great. I think we should all have that focus, but also to be realistic on our approach, our physique, and also to stay grounded during the process. Especially if you're a first-time competitor. Because to me, there's so many other wins that you can pull from besides winning a bodybuilding competition. It's completing the full prep. That to me is a win. It's showing up in the condition as far as reaching the stage, condition as far as your presentation, your posing, your tan. It's other big wins is building confidence during this time, learning from your body. It's just simply executing the plan. And understand, what you do between shows matters much more what you do during your prep. After the show, and it's a funny thing because a lot of clients and a lot of people that I talk to online, they get excited for the off season, and usually because they're looking forward to eating, but that's when your time is to go back to the drawing board. You reassess, you improve, you build, because that is it. It's bodybuilding, not body dieting. And again, guys, I'm not picking on anyone or saying you're doing it wrong, but 90% of the time, it's just doing more of the same, giving yourself more time, years to develop. 10% of the time is tweaking, not getting too fat in the off season, not staying too lean during the off season. Working your ass off in the gym is the thing that's going to take you to the next level. Being smart, structured with your training. So my closing message for this is, guys, stop treating prep like it's time to become great. It's the work in between the shows that what makes you great. The prep before the prep, putting yourself in a good position, that's what's going to set you apart and have you reach a new level. And when you do that right, prep becomes predictable. It's not desperate. And I think that is the biggest take-home point. So it's not just flipping a switch. It's doing everything that's necessary, gradually getting into it, trusting your coach, and you'll be there. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. Again, thank you for listening the last month when I've been touching upon these contest prep type podcasts. A lot of great feedback. Listens are up. People are subscribing. Love you guys. I do have coaching available. FitFranco@Verizon.net is the best way to get in touch with me. And I'll talk to you next time.